down the numbers. We've got you covered based on the numbers with your incredible host, Bahia Shabazz, based on the numbers.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Based on the Numbers. I am your host, Bahia Shabazz. Guess who I have here today? We have Latrice Farmer. She is part of, if not the woman of Mad Queen Media. Welcome, everybody, Latrice Farmer, to today's episode. Now, you may be wondering, what exactly are we talking about today? Snap, crackle, and pop, right? Snap, who it benefits. And before we get into it, I just want Latrice to take a moment to say hi to everyone. And so that you would know exactly who she is. Latrice, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I am so honored to be here. And hello, everyone. Hope you are enjoying your new year so far, if you celebrate New Year this time. But I am the lead marketing strategist at Mad Queen Media. And once again, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure for you to be here. So for those of you who may be wondering, and Latrice, let me say this because I say this without sounding harsh. For some unintelligent individuals, but that was kind of harsh, wasn't it?
No.
Listen, I want to define what is SNAP. And the reason why I want to define what is SNAP is because I remember when some people were arguing that they wanted to get rid of Obamacare.
Oh,
And I'm like, really? Why? Because it's Obamacare. I'm like, well, what do you know about it? It is horrible. We don't need it. It's messing up our economy. And I'm like, okay, really? What insurance do you have? Are you employed? What do you have? I was just asking all these questions, and some unintelligent individuals would say to me, "Oh no, I have Affordable Care Act."
and that's branding. That's a branding issue because it
It,
was
it,
branded
it,
as something you should oppose,
mm-hmm,
not something that you have.
mm-hmm,
But that's
mm-hmm.
another conversation.
Exactly. But see, people didn't understand that the Affordable Care Act was actually Obamacare. So for those, and again, the reason why, and that's one of the reasons why I want to define what is SNAP. And the other is too, around the time that the nation paused and we had the government shutdown, and as you know, SNAP benefits were affected. And I will go across social media, and there were people who were saying, "Wow, there are people who are SNAP individuals who are affected. I'm glad I don't have SNAP. I have food stamps." I'm like, what? Wait a minute. So this is
And it's
this
crazy
is
because
the
you filled out the paperwork that said
SNAP
SNAP.
crackling pop. So as I was over
Open the
here
schools.
crackling
You got to open the
popping,
schools. Open the schools.
listen,
Open the
but
schools.
Latrice, the schools are open, but are they attending? Are they actually reading a book? See, that's another statistic that we can go in and base of the numbers of the number of people who actually read books after they graduate from high school. So that's a
This
whole
is
nother
crazy.
topic. So let's go ahead and define what is SNAP. SNAP is a federal program that helps low income households afford what? Groceries. And it supplements food budgets and adjusts based on income, household size, and economic conditions. So let me say this again. It supplements your food budget. It is not your food budget. It supplements, right?
First
For
word,
those who,
supplemental.
yes, because there's a lot of people who solely rely on food stamps. There are other people who recognize that SNAP benefits their household, um, and is based off of their income as well, which we're going to talk about also. So I want us to talk about now that we've gotten the definition out the way for those who want to argue that they do not receive SNAP, they receive food stamps or EBT, all the same thing. I want us to talk about first, begin with what are your, who benefits, right? That's the key question today. Who benefits from SNAP, right? Who uses it? What are your thoughts about that, Latrice?
Families, first and foremost, families, elderly, children. Um, I'm trying to look forward because we're doing statistics. We're just not making up numbers, right? Let me get to my notes. We're
Go
not just
ahead.
making up numbers. We're looking up data. So I know families for sure. We have children with two parents make up a minority, 41%. So these are families. This is
Mm-hmm.
at least what, three people
Mm-hmm.
in one family unit that are
Mm-hmm.
on SNAP.
Mm.
We have elderly people. There's some child-free people who are, but they are not being paid enough. So that's why they qualify. Once again, for you to qualify for SNAP without children, you kind of they want you to be employed. Like you have to submit employment. They want to know that you're working. So I
But
don't
you know
know.
what? Uh, I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's the misconception that some people think, and it's something you just said that really resonated with me. You said you must be employed, or you should be.
Yeah,
There
they're
are a lot,
asking you. They want you to work a minimum of hours. They want you to verify that.
exactly.
There's
But
not people just sitting there racking up.
but listen to what you just said. There are a lot of people that really have this misconception that individuals who receive SNAP are lazy.
Hmm.
They are actually milking the system. They can do better. They're taken away from those who really need it. Either way, it is expected for you to have income.
It is expected.
It is
And you also,
expected.
if you do not have income and you are underemployed or not employed, you are required to finish training. They want you to go through job development. They want to see that you're looking.
Hmm.
There's,
Just,
they don't
just like
tolerate.
unemployment. Yeah, just like unemployment. If you were, seeking unemployment, you would get the benefits, but you have to show that you are looking for employment.
Absolutely.
Y- You know what? And it's and with this economy and how it is, and the lack of job security for one, the lack of meaningful jobs out there, especially for those who are um, how do I say this, who have advanced degrees. It's hard for them to seek employment in the degree, the industry that they were seeking. But let me say this, because you were saying who benefits the most. You have your families with children, as you were saying, you have your seniors, your elderly, you have disabled individuals, you have local economies as well, which we're going to talk about, right? How SNAP dollars are spent quickly and supporting grocery stores, farmers, retailers, jobs, all of that. Um, but when you were talking about that it is expected for you to find employment, to have gainful employment, it also made me think about how I hear some of this rhetoric on social media, as well as in person. I've had a couple of people who have told me when I was talking about the economy and how um, jobs are out there or certain jobs are not, and who's actually hiring. And for some reason, we got on a conversation of the type of jobs out there that are posted and the jobs that people are finding. And unfortunately, there are jobs out there that are not as meaningful, fast food places, which a lot of people want to argue with you that that's only for high schoolers. It shouldn't be someone who's, an adult, as we like to call them, for them to seek employment there. So they shouldn't even be trying to ask for more than the minimum wage. But you have to go where you can, because again, this is supplementing your grocery budget. It is not the grocery budget. And
Absolutely.
I remember looking at, because we are based on the numbers, and I remember pulling up recently. I pulled up in the state of Indiana, which is where we're located. the maximum of SNAP that is allotted. And when you were saying like a family of three, your gross income, the monthly limit for you to bring into your household is 2,000 around $2,800. $2,800 a month is the most that you can bring in with a family of three, which means that your maximum SNAP benefit is going to be $785. So for those of you who are saying, well, people are getting on SNAP just because they want that assistance and they act like that they can't do anything else. $785, it shows you that that is supplementing. That is, you can't feed a family of three solely on $785, and it's max.
Max.
That is max. That is not the standard. That is max.
And then the response to that, I like how you mentioned that number as a supplement, because they're looking at it like, well, you should cut costs to make the food stretch. And they want people to eat beans every day just to supplement that cost. But it's just interesting, the stereotypes around what people, once you find out, oh, okay, well, they're getting that. Well, I wish I got that kind of money. A lot of people would probably qualify if they applied.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't want the stigma of being on SNAP. They don't want people to think that they're on SNAP. But you probably would qualify if you applied because you're not earning like you should. You might qualify. Another thing, once you see that, I don't think people take into consideration what $2,800 a month is. You know, how far do you, like, these people can't make more than that. So there are several jobs where people are not bringing home $3,000-4,000 a month. Several.
Mm-hmm.
It's very common for your neighbor to not be pulling $2,800 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so for that to be the cap, and that's the max amount, $785. I just feel like we take for granted that so many people make the cut.
But see, you were saying that, of course, we were talking about who benefits and family members, or I'm sorry, families with children, seniors and disabled individuals. So if we even stop there, because seniors and disabled individuals. I remember when I was in the banking industry and there were people who would come in, seniors, and this was a long time ago. This is actually before direct deposit was required of your monthly benefits. So they would come in with their checks. And I'll never forget, and I tell the story all the time, how this one individual, you can tell that he was, and I'm not saying this to be insulting, you can tell that he was a Great Depression baby, how his mentality was. And it was, I have to see. Because you have to remember, the Great Depression really was not a Great Depression for all of us, and according to us in our culture, because we weren't able to put money in the bank in the first place. You know, we didn't have all that credit. So while the United States, it was something, because even to this day, I tell people, in my opinion, I feel like there are two types of Americas, right? You have white America, you have black America. And don't argue with me, everybody, argue with your mom. Go ahead, don't be mean in them comments. When you look, turn your TV on now, you can see the difference between the two Americas, right? Am I ignoring other people, who are here? No, I'm not. But let's talk about it. So when the United States was going through the Great Depression and everybody was like, "Where's my money? I don't have anything." And so that's how the FDIC was created, because of the Great Depression. But again, we as Black folk could not put our money into the bank. We had to hold on to it. So we were literally saving our funds. We were sharecropping, we were doing whatever we could do. So when white America was trying to make sure that they were able to stay afloat in what they were doing, we had the Renaissance elevating during that time, where we were purchasing, it got to the point where we were purchasing vehicles, particularly Cadillac, start opening their doors to us because they saw that we had the cash and they were going under. So that's a whole nother story. But let's circle back around to the SNAP. So when it comes to the SNAP and the seniors, my heart goes out because when like the gentleman came in and he had his check and I saw how much that check was. For the entire month, he was receiving about $800 for the entire month. That's to pay for his rent, to pay for his utilities, to pay for everything else that he needed, and that was part of his disposable income. That one check. So of course, the SNAP was going to supplement what he could use to purchase the groceries. And
Mhm.
even with that, it wasn't breaking the bank. Because as an individual, if we look up again, we're in the state of Indiana, but one household, a household size of one in the state of Indiana, the maximum is around $300. That's the max. And somebody may say, well, one person can eat off of, $300 of food, but can they right now with the way everything is going up? I tell you this, I went to the store yesterday, and I'm not going to say what store it is because they're not sponsoring anything on this
Right.
podcast, but it was a local store, and it started with a J. I'll put it that way, so you know what I'm talking about. Um, I went in there to get some things on sale because I use their digital coupon. And yesterday that it was a lady who came up to me and she said, "Oh my God, they have eggs for 99 cents." I said, "Well, that's good to know. I don't eat eggs," but I instantly thought about the rally behind everyone and the administration that's in right now about the cost of eggs and how can but it wasn't just about eggs, it was a lot of other things that involves the groceries and how can we afford these groceries, how can we afford our lifestyle, everything is increasing. So even though $300 may sound like it's enough for one person, the cost of groceries are increasing.
You can go to the store, and I know you don't indulge in meat, but if you can spend $100 and not have meat, and that's usually the biggest part of your check. That's usually what
Mm-hmm.
if you go to the store, that's what for people who do eat meat, that's what you're spending the bulk of your money on. And another thing I hate to see is the SNAP shaming on what people buy because they haven't calculated the cost. So, for example, who is this? The grocery store might have crab legs for
Oh, why was I thinking crab legs when you said that?
always because they always shaming the crab leg, the seafood
They
eater.
do. They
So,
do.
crab legs right now. I went to another local store and they were $8.99 a pound with coupon. That's cheaper than ground beef,
Is it?
depending on where you're
But
going.
again,
I
again,
know you.
just
Yeah,
you
I
did.
know.
Yeah, I don't
But depending
haven't
on where
eaten
you're
meat
going,
in
it's eight ninety
decades.
nine a pound for 2 pounds of snow crab.
Wait a minute, let's pause. Snow crabs is the per pound right now is less than like ground beef
At this local
at this
place,
a particular establishment that
that
you're
particular
talking about.
establishment. Yeah.
But
So I
just
was,
even the fact, whether it's that establishment or two establishments, just the mere fact. Because I always grew up like if you eating crab legs and lobster, you like the Jeffersons, you done moved on up.
it
But
depends on where you go. It depends on where
oh,
you go. So I had I noticed that if you go to like the large big box wholesalers, you can
mm-hmm.
make things the what is it, the dollar amount per unit, because they have everything priced per unit.
Okay.
You get better value on like seafood and things like that because it's priced better. But those people sell to, other stores. But all of this to say, if you look per unit, the cost of certain items is cheaper than what you think they should be spending. So
Mm.
sometimes like a pack of chicken wings is $17 and you still have to buy everything to go with it. But the price of maybe some salmon might be a little bit different, might be a little bit cheaper if you get a couple pieces of fish, depending on what the sale is. So I don't like seeing people judge other people for what they put in their cart. If this person regularly shops on a budget, they know where the coupons are. They know where the deals are. You don't know what they spent on their cart. I've seen people post like full carts on social media, and they're like, "Oh, we know that's the EBT cart there." Oh,
Shut
I've seen some
up.
terrible stuff. Right. That's why I was like, when you invited me today, I'm like, yeah, let's talk about it because I've seen terrible conversations around SNAP stereotypes. And it's just not accurate on who receives it and who actually qualify. Single mothers. We have this huge stereotype that single mothers are the only ones on EBT.
No.
And
I mean,
there's a lot
no.
of negative conversations around single mothers. I am a single mother. And I see a lot of people assume that single mothers are on EBT and not working.
But we already established that there are certain parameters, certain requirements, and it's not single mothers because we just spoke about where we got these numbers from, right? So it was one of the resources center on budget and policy priorities, right? So according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, roughly two-thirds of SNAP participants are children, elderly, or people with disabilities. And then you have to think about the other side of that is most able-bodied adults receiving SNAP work either before or after enrollment. So think about this, most able-bodied. So that's not necessarily all single women with children. If we're breaking some myths around here, there are men who are SNAP recipients as well. They're families, and I'm not talking about single mother families. I'm talking about families, the
Two-parent household.
nuclear exactly are on, because as we just established, there is a certain maximum that you have to bring in order to qualify. And the reality of it is, as hard as we work, you have people who have bachelor's, master's, doctorates, you have you have all kinds of degrees that are not receiving the income that they thought that they were going to receive. Right. So the job opportunity is not always there. And then you
But
take what you can.
the debt
Exactly.
is.
Then we don't, that's a whole nother topic
And
talking
that's
about
another
that net
conversation.
worth,
But a lot
that net
of,
worth.
if we look at the numbers, a lot of single
Mhm.
mothers, if they're established, if they're head of household, they have to earn enough to sustain a household, utilities, and the at least one child that they have. They're probably making more than 2,800 a month if they have to sustain that. They don't even qualify. And I know a lot of single moms who don't, but that's the stereotype is still there. And you'll see it in visuals, you'll see it in memes. But there's an idea that people who are on SNAP and receive SNAP benefits deserve whatever happens because of decisions they made. I know plenty of single mothers who left abusive situations and they're on SNAP because they now have to sustain the household. So I would hate for, you know, for them to not receive it because they're now making new adjustments. They made a hard decision and now they have to make adjustments and you're shaming them for making that choice.
And that's exactly what I was thinking, shaming. Because no one knows what's in other people's household. Just the mere fact, to be honest, Latrice, I'm still stuck on someone looking at someone's basket and saying that that's a SNAP basket. So what does it supposed to look like? Because it has crab legs, and I'm assuming fruits, vegetables, because you got to think about now, SNAP benefits, they're adjusting
I'm
as
glad
of
you
this
mentioned
month.
that. What should it
Yeah,
look like? What should the
yeah.
cart look like?
What should the cart look like? Because
That's a valid question.
uh, let's focus on that. And then we're going to get to, because we have to break this down even before we even inform who it actually benefits the most, right? So, because we're talking about the demographics of who receives it. Now, if they're talking about now those who are being judgmental, looking at the buggy and saying, well, that they receive SNAP benefits because they have lobster tails and crab legs and kale and potatoes, because I work every day, all day. And I'm just assuming, based off what you're saying, I work every day, all day, and I can't even afford that. Oh, they must be lucky. Okay, but so let's pause. Because for those of you who do not know, as of January of this year, you SNAP benefits, you cannot purchase sugary drinks, candy, or anything like that with your SNAP benefits.
Energy
So,
drinks, Gatorade does not qualify. Powerade. Yeah,
you know, I
Gatorade is
don't, I,
sugary. It's
you
an
know,
energy drink.
I'm not into that anyway. Give
Hmm.
me my coconut water. Give me
Oh,
them
we know it
electrolytes
because
through coconut.
somebody posted that they tried to get Gatorade and it got refused.
It got refused. So for those athletes who parents,
Yeah,
receive
if you have a
snaps and
kid who's drinking Gatorade for their
mm-mm,
camp, not on
can't
Snap.
do it. Can't do it. You might as well
Crazy.
buy coconut water.
So yeah,
But see,
donate Gatorade if the kids need it.
exactly. But see, that's the thing though. So Snap, they have their rules on what you can now and cannot, particularly what you cannot purchase. So with that being said, if they're leaning toward more of a healthier option, you will see the seafood, you will see the poultry, you will see the meats as well. You will see the chicken, you will see the I guess the good protein. You got to throw some fiber in there. But so how are you going to what kind of conversation will you have then as you are peeking in somebody else's basket?
What would you expect to see in a Snap card? I think that's a great question. What do you think it should
Mm.
look like? Because you want them to eat healthier, but you
But
don't want
see,
to pay for it, and you know what organic food costs. Let's talk about that.
oh, we already know
You
because
know
I
what
don't. Oh,
organic foods cost,
yes,
but you want these people on super tight budgets where they don't even make more than 2,800 a month. You want them to make better food decisions, but then you want them to see a cart full of ramen.
see, where does that stem from, Latrice? And people, the perception that a lot of people have is that those who are on SNAP are on welfare, and those who are on welfare are all minority people or a high percentage. So you as a black or brown person, you should be eating, like you say, the noodles. You should be eating chips. Because you have to think about this. Look at the neighborhoods that marginalized communities are in, and the food deserts that are there. And most of the shopping are from convenience stores. That's what's going to hurt as well. So when we're talking about who benefits the most, we're not, and we're going to break that down because there is a difference of what we're going to talk about. Who benefits the most? Because it is subjective through the lens of who's defining that too.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are people out there who would say that Black people benefit the most because of who we are. They have this mentality that we don't work, we don't do anything, we don't deserve anything, we're lazy.
And I'm gonna say
Side note,
this. Oh, you go ahead.
no, side note, do you know that there were actually farmers? Because we're gonna talk about them farmers. There were actually white farmers who were on the record saying that they thought once they got rid of some of the brown people that they just knew Black people would come on and be slaves for them because they didn't actually think that we were working. But look at the representation right now in this conversation, Black women, and we are one of the highest educated group of people in the United States. But you actually had
They
some
thought
people
we was about to do what?
go in there and pick their little blueberries and their
You know what? And
strawberries and
so
their
everybody's
corn and
complaining now about
everything else.
produce at the stores being bad. We know why.
But let's back it up though, because you have to think about this. I remember when Trump was on a podium, and I cannot remember exactly where he was, but remember when he was talking about stopping the immigrants at the border, not the other immigrants, but the brown immigrants at the border. And remember, he said they're taking your jobs. They're
Yeah,
taking the Black jobs.
yeah, that's how we got on the black
Just
job.
like him, a lot of people, unlike us, who like to read and research, the uneducated and unintellectual individuals really listen to what other people who are saying who have not picked up a book in 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And they literally thought that we had no education, we had no background, and we were going to come and bust down the door to pick up our Black jobs, not knowing our Black jobs are actually physicians, attorneys, podcasters, financial analysts, entrepreneurs. I mean, let's go on and on.
I guess they kept hearing that 335,000 number and thought, they will find something for us to do. Nah, a lot of those women created companies. So many businesses jumped out of the passion. Like we'll talk about that. Might be another conversation for
that's
another
a whole
day.
nother conversation.
So proud of us. I'm so proud of us and the way we bounced back.
But see,
looking
we
forward
always
to what the year holds.
I agree.
But the point I was going to make was how those stereotypes you mentioned persist. A lot of times we support them, we encourage them, we promote them. Every time you share one of those thoughts or you jump into one of those conversations and agree with something anti-Black or classist about your own culture and how they're being portrayed, and it's not true. Anytime you share a meme or a photo that a certain demographic uses to shame the people in your community, anytime you say, ha ha, that's so true, you're feeding into it. So I would also encourage those of us who know it's not true, who actually see the data and we know who's on there, who benefits, challenge those conversations. Yes, you want to protect your peace, but you also don't want to maintain that narrative. You don't want to be the one supporting it and endorsing it and saying, oh, I thought it was a funny joke when it's harmful. You have to be accountable for that narrative. We know it's not true. We know it, but we still will laugh at the jokes and jump into the conversation. We got to stop.
Exactly. So as we transition on, I want people to remember that based on these numbers, right, according to data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Research, where are we getting this from? From the National Bureau of Economic Research, households with children receive the largest share of SNAP benefits, while children experience the strongest long-term outcomes. We're making sure these babies are fed. Our seniors and disabled individuals are fed. People who have income are fed. It's just that they have limited income. Are they looking? Absolutely, they're looking. They're not. Do not think that people are sitting around just satisfied supplementing $200, $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 of their grocery income. They're not. So I want people to understand that we're just not, Latrice and I are just not having a conversation, just pulling numbers out of the air. We have actually researched this information so that you can be informed and not misinformed.
I encourage you, please go look up what we said.
Exactly.
Please.
Exactly.
Form your own opinions.
So let me ask you this, because we were talking about food deserts. Now, you have convenience stores. Depending on where you are, you may have some homesteads, some farmers around. What do you think about us being able to or not spend our money from like farmer to the table?
We should be able to. I attended a community meeting a couple months ago. One of our local farmers was saying that it's hard for her to sell produce to the city. I said, well, I didn't even know you were here. How do we bridge that gap? Because I want to be able to walk on the farm and walk off with some cabbage. And I'm able to do that in different cities. If I go visit, I'm able to go to the farmer's market. So I would like to see more of that here. I'm not going to be that person that says we have a farmer's market that sets up in the winter, in the summer, where the farmers come together and they sell their produce. I do think that we should highlight those farmers who accept EBT, because they do. You can spend your EBT with a farmer. There's a program that allows them to bring food to table to low-income families. And that's my concern with the push for health. We should be supporting these farmer-led programs, but we're cutting sugars and things. With the energy is not placed where it should be.
So what you're saying? You're saying that we're focusing on we don't have as opposed to what we can have?
We should stay positive and focus on the things we want.
You go.
Is what I'm saying.
There you go.
We should not be focused on the things we don't want. Because if we want things to be healthy, we should be pushing for those partnerships that bring health and wellness. But that's not necessarily what we're doing. We're removing things that could be harmful, which, yes, that helps. But if the goal overall is to sustain health, we would want to support initiatives that bring healthy options to our community.
You're right, because we see more of the what you cannot have anymore. The sugary drinks, which is fine to inform those individuals who may send their children to the convenience store to say, hey, why don't you go ahead and get yourself a bag of chips and a Powerade? And, I understand that. But we do not see enough of actually broadcast at all and until we have our small community meetings, like you were saying, about being able to use your EBT card to purchase fresh produce from farmers.
There are farmers that accept WIC and EBT. And so when I had my first child, I wanted to cut the budget because I was a working mother. I made the baby food. I made all her baby food. I bought bananas, sweet potatoes, kale, avocado. I made, steamed, blended, processed all of her food. It was so much cheaper for me to go to Sam's Club and get a wholesale bag of sweet potatoes, steam them and prep them. And I was not on EBT. Let's be clear. This was me as a and that's another trick. Like, I ended up making more. I've been into the stereotype because people were telling me, "Oh yeah, you're a single mom. You're going to get so much back on your taxes." But I worked too much because I was a single mom. I had to I had to sustain. So no, I wasn't able to get those benefits that everybody assured me I would get. That because you just don't get them. You get them because you need them. So
exactly.
Anyway, that's another conversation. But I was able to make the baby food, which helped me stretch my dollars a little bit better. But there was a farm program that it's called, I can't think of the name of it, but it was a farm. One of the farmers has a program that partners with single mothers to show them how to do that, how to make their own baby food. That's sustainable. These are the things we should be funding. These are the things we should be promoting. And we're not. We're so busy saying, poor people should eat better anyway. And that's not necessarily the energy we need if we're trying to solve a health problem.
Exactly. So now let's get to the question, to answer the question, right? Who benefits the most? And I was saying that it's actually through the lens, because you would hear some people to say it's white people who benefits the most, and those who would say that it's Black people who benefits the most. And when I was looking through this subject, that of course you will hear people that will say, I don't think it's enough data for you to draw a conclusion. But okay, take the emotion out of it, honestly. Let's base it off of the population, and let's look at it as far as who benefits the most and who relies on it the most are two separate things. Now, when it comes to gender, of course, women are by far going to receive the majority of the SNAP benefits, because as you pointed out, Latrice, that is women with children, you do have single parent household, but it's women who receive it the most. And based off of one of the agencies that I mentioned earlier, the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, they state that roughly 60 to 65% of SNAP households are headed by women. So, and it's largely driven by, as we were saying, single parent household, caregiving responsibilities, lower average earnings among, the females. Because you mentioned, even though you did not receive EBT, you have some women who say, well, I need to take care, I want to be home to take care of the smaller children. So I may sit out for a little bit, or I may reduce my hours at work, which means a reduction in income. So with that being said, if we're talking about who benefits, that means women across all racial groups benefit the most. But then when we start breaking it down as far as ethnicity, We have our white non-Hispanic household that they take up about 40%, between 30, you have 35 to 40% of white, not take up 30 to 45, 30 to 40% of SNAP benefits. What I'm saying is you have 30 to 40% of their population who receive the SNAP. Now, when it comes to Black households, you have about 25% of our population. So their population, and this is again according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. So according to what we've read, white households receive the most SNAP benefits in total dollars. Receive the most. However, when we're talking about who relies on them the most, it would be us because of the income inequality, the wealth gaps, the labor market disparities, all the things that we talk about when we speak about inequality between us and other ethnicities. We rely on them the most because of the lack of the income that we have. However, who benefits the most? White households, if that makes sense. They benefit the most. They see the most benefits.
I can see that. I appreciate the distinction in language because relies and
Mhm.
receives are two different things. And I
Absolutely.
think that's also worth mentioning when we talk about fraud and we talk about
Mm,
who actually needs the resources. And I'm not saying that different races of people in poverty don't need them, but the reliance on it, with it being heavier for us, doesn't match the stereotypes we receive about being needy and wasteful, because we rely economically because of disparities. Black people rely. The ones who are need it. They're
hmm.
sustaining families. They're watching grandmother, because we have when it comes to caregiving, we have a community structure. We didn't really do the nursing homes and assisted care facilities. We would have somebody
Right.
come in and take care of grandma. We would caregive. So if somebody's doing that, they probably don't need to be clocking in 10 hours a day and trying to do that as well. So there are caregivers who receive this type of support. Um, and yes, if this person had to pick up an extra job to cover food, that because they don't receive this supplement, that would affect their hours to give. So I think that's something to focus on, to pay attention to as well. Um, the whole systems rely on SNAP benefits. Even grocery stores, one of the things that came up was if when they paused benefits a couple months ago, we were worried about how that would affect the economy. How are they going to pay? Because they're relying on these sales to sustain their operations. This is
Hmm.
money that they're receiving in traffic they're receiving from customers that's not coming in because they don't have the money.
And you know what? I didn't, and it's something you mentioned there because as an economist, I'm tracking prices because it's all about the supply and demand. And I'm like, okay, they have all these supplies and people were holding on to their funds, whether you receive SNAP benefits or not.
It just was
The
uncertain.
economy, yeah, was so uncertain. And then let's not even throw in the federal employees that were furloughed. So they're like, well, wait a minute. How am I going to make ends meet? I can't even buy food. I can't pay my rent or mortgage, my utilities. I know people personally who were struggling and calling and saying, listen, I know I don't I received a couple of phone calls by here. I know you frugal. Well, I'm being nice when because they didn't say frugal, they said cheap. I don't like the word cheap because I'm not cheap.
No,
That's
you're an
quality.
economist. There's a difference.
They're like, I know they literally said, I know you cheap. I'm just gonna say frugal. They're like, I know you frugal, but can I hold such and such? And I don't give out money. And I'm like, well, what's going on? And of course, it wasn't clicking at the time. I'm like, because these people normally don't call me. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, you do work for the government. And I had to take the fussing mom slash economist hat off because I'm like, well, you haven't been saving? You don't even put this much to the side for emergency. Because I didn't want to shame anybody. But just the mere fact that it wasn't just those who were on SNAP at that time, it was those who were affected with their employment, because they even filed for, the individuals I spoke with even filed for SNAP benefits, and they were at the top of the list to try to get approval, but it still didn't happen quick enough. Um, and then you're thinking about those who are in families who have two family households. Think about that. Two family household, even if you furlough, you're not bringing in any money. So now your partner has to think about how to, bring in extra money. And the unfortunate part is too, you have a lot of lenders out there, from people, property managers, all the way down to car loans, and like I say, your utilities and everything, your monthly responsibilities. Even though they knew what was going on with this economy, they had no compassion.
No.
It was pay your bills. Can you borrow from somebody? Oh, you need to eat. I'm sorry. Oh, there's a kid crying in the background. Oh well.
Very well. Very
And
well.
it's like we have lost what we actually work for, strive for in this this country. I'm gonna say this. We're so pitted against each other. Democrats versus Republicans, white versus black, the haves and the have-nots. No one cares about each other anymore. And it's what's in there, but it's what's going to pad their pocket, and they're not working together. But yeah, the SNAP and everything that was going on during that time some months ago, it affected everybody, not just individuals with SNAP. It affected everybody.
People they did not receive their benefits. So the money
Mhm.
that was allocated for bills had to go to food. So now they're behind on their bills.
Absolutely.
Now they're back
Hmm.
on utilities, because they had to eat, but that supplement was not there. So even if people are like, oh, well, they got their benefits anyway, they already spent the money. You don't get that. They only get $2,800 a month if they're lucky. If they're lucky, that's
Latrice,
the cap.
Latrice,
You
I
know,
was on social media, and this is how I realized that a lot of people who do not look like us. And for those of you who are on the podcast, we're not shaming anybody, but I was, like I said, who do not look like us. Yes, we're melanated people. So those who do not look like us, you can tell that they were so out of the circle with who relies on SNAP the most, who benefits the most, what does it consist of? I will never forget someone literally ranting, saying that, okay, you're not going to get any benefits this month. I don't know what you're crying about. Just save some of the money that you had last month. Ma'am, ma'am,
what money?
supplement.
Supplement.
It's supplement. But then too, during that ordeal, it really enlightened a lot of people as to who receives the most, because when they started seeing who was actually on social media crying about not getting any money, baby,
Oh, yeah,
they were like,
lined
well,
up
wait
that
a
one
minute,
video, lined up all around. Once again,
girl. Yeah.
because let's also be clear, the things that you have to do to qualify, they looking for a reason to not give it to you. So a lot
Hmm.
of people who want to apply can't. So I don't know where the
Hmm.
stereotypes come from. I know tons of people who probably could, I thought qualified, got denied because they either didn't have a kid, or there was a lady I was talking to at one of the big box wholesalers. I felt so bad for her. She had just broke up with her partner in an abusive situation.
Mm.
She ended up, she was on SNAP. She ended up getting a promotion because now she has to cover, because now she's a single mother. So now she has to cover bills. She ended up getting a promotion. That promotion put her $3 over the threshold, cut her off.
$3,
Because
Latrice.
the threshold is the threshold. They don't care. They told you.
$3.
They told you this all you can make. She was $3 over the threshold, lost her benefits. And so she was picking up extra hours at work, which now puts her away from the kids.
Okay.
And
But
I
you
just
know what?
happened to talk to her that day. I don't
But,
know this lady. I don't know her name, but she
but this
told
is
me that
the
story.
thing. You have some people listening and saying, well, she could just get another job
In this
and
economy,
take away, thank you, and take away from the time of raising her children. So you got to think
however
about this.
long
And
she's
she,
been at this job, she probably had been there for
thank you.
years. For
But
them to
not
make
only
her a
that,
supervisor because she asked, oh,
but
she had been there.
wait a minute. So, but wait a minute. So supervisor, so you already putting in some hours. right? Because you salary, so they're gonna work you like crazy. But then but she needs to supplement the food budget. So somebody may tell her, because we have now, we had a conversation about staying out these comments on social media, because child,
They
sometimes I'm
take you
like,
there.
are you serious? See, this is why you don't have a picture on your profile, because you cannot be serious. So you will have somebody to say, well, she just needs to go find another job. So let's put this into perspective, because what bothers me is that critical thinking is not a requirement in adulthood. You're going to go and work at a part-time job just to supplement your food budget. But now you have to find somebody, in this lady's case, and I'm so happy she left the abusive relationship. She has to find somebody to watch her children, and she has to pay for that, which is not cheap at all. So what she's earning in that part-time just to supplement her food is really taking up for that daycare or somebody watching her child. Make it make sense.
It does not, and it
Make
never
it
will.
make sense.
And so, but they have no other choice but to do it and then constantly be stressed out. So now you're complaining to her because, oh, how come your child can't read? Don't you have time to read to them? And all this other stuff we like to do to
Mm-hmm.
hold people accountable
Mm-hmm.
and come up with these stories. But nonetheless, this is one human who I probably will never see this person again. And then we just took a moment to share that moment in humanity. And it was just like, goodness, she really had to make this type of decision. She couldn't refuse the promotion because she has to, well, like we spoke about earlier, pay for housing. She needs medical care. These are
Mm-hmm.
things that you need to sustain your family. And she tried to improve her situation and lost her coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
this idea that single women are just abusing the system, once they sustain themselves in this household, they can't even qualify about $10 because the threshold is the
Yeah.
threshold. They do not care.
But it's not just single women that a lot of people think who are abusing the system. They think Black people abuse the system too.
Yeah, you true. That's true. It is.
They do. And I don't care if anybody say they think that they say, why do you have to make it about race? This world,
And
this
the
United States
reason
made everything about race. But let's stop.
the reason we keep things in verses is it's easier to keep that division if we look at this or that instead of
Mm-hmm.
like a range of
Mm-hmm.
what's really happening. So if we're looking
Mm-hmm.
at maybe 4 or 5 demographics, it's easier to speak on their representation. It's versus this group and that group.
Yes.
But it's easy. It's better for the algorithms to focus on 2 groups of people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So based off of not your opinion, but what you researched, and the data that you retrieve, who do you think benefits the most from SNAP? Who benefits?
From what I've looked at, would have to say corporation.
You say corporation
I
benefits
would
the
have to
most
say
from SNAP?
corporation.
Oh my goodness! So wait a minute, you just threw a curveball,
I would say
because I was
corporation.
I was gonna say the largest share of SNAP benefits go to white households and to women.
I mean, and that's true,
But
but
I
where do
mean
they
that's
spend it?
true.
Where
But
do
you
they
just
spend it
open
though?
up yeah,
Where do they
you
spend it? They're going to Target,
corporations.
you know, they're going to, you know, they're going to corporations. So even if
So
they
go
receive
ahead.
it, they're not spending it with Black-owned grocery stores.
So that's the economic spillover in regards to the SNAP benefits. So when we thinking about this, everybody who's listening, it's not solely because Latrice threw in that curveball, and I had to run to the outfield to catch it, right? Because somebody hit it out. She threw it. She turned around and hit it out the park, and I had to run and catch it. So now here I'm catching it because I mean I'm giving it from a perspective of recipients of who benefits the most. And I
You
did
really
say
got me
White House.
thinking. It was you when you said receives versus relies. That's what
Mm-hmm.
really put that spin on it. Because yes, where are we all spending it? We look at all the groups. Where is everyone spending it? It doesn't matter whether we need it or not. Where is it going? And how does it
Baby,
circle?
corporations.
And how does it cycle? That's who benefits.
And then let's go one step further. Okay, now we about to creep in it even more. And listen, Because no, seriously, you're saying corporations. And then even when we're looking in communities,
What did
whether
we
it
learn?
is,
What did we learn? Our city loses 95 million annually
mm-hmm,
just going
mm-hmm.
out the city for
And
food.
that's exactly what I was going to say. When you're looking at, especially marginalized communities, when you're looking at the communities and you may have convenience stores, and you may have one nice grocery store that is not a Whole Foods type, but a grocery store. The owners of those stores do not look like the majority of the people in that community that is served. So they're taking those funds, even if it's a family-owned store, they're taking those funds and running with it and placing it into their communities and their household, which are miles away outside of the cities that we're talking about. And then those who have those stores or what have you, and live in that community, like you're saying, the flip side is they're taking it to corporations to spend their money. The
Not the farm,
Targets, the Walmarts, the
not the farms that we talked about earlier who could
yeah,
use
not
the
the
money,
farms.
not the sustainable community groups. No, you can't spend with them, not the local market,
It
not
would
the
be nice.
not the
It,
pantry.
yeah. So what we the unfortunate part is this administration, I don't think that they really sit down to talk about truly the SNAP benefits. Who not only who relies, who benefits, like I say, the individuals as well as you mentioning the corporations, and how that affects everybody. Well, let's just say a lot of people who are in those positions are not in those positions for on merit. Okay, let's just say that. They're so those many of those who are in those positions are disconnected with society. But it just amazes me because you really got me thinking about that too, and how we can possibly support our own. And I'm talking like you're saying farmers and now how would thinking about it that way, how would those baskets now look? How are they presented? While people are being nosy and saying, oh, this is what we need to have, truly a SNAP challenge. SNAP challenge would be you going to the farmers, posting your hand basket with your cabbage and your collards and your beets. You're eating well. We always say health is wealth.
Mm-hmm.
If we truly want those SNAP benefits to supplement that income and provide households with nourishment, proper nourishment, it should have those baskets full of fruits, vegetables, the meats that you should have, the fish that you should have, the seafood you should have. You should not be seeing those sugary drinks and the snacks and stuff. And if you do, well, we now know that you're going to be using your funds from your pocket to purchase that for your little ones. But
Mm-hmm.
we need to change our mindset of what these SNAP benefits are going to do. They're literally going to benefit a healthier lifestyle.
And my concern with the SNAP card, right? Because we believe that people on SNAP should have certain things in their cart that don't necessarily match what we have in ours. So I can go get some popsicles, but you bet not. And
Right.
I think that's interesting too. Because if the goal is to eat healthy, don't you want to do the same? Why should my cart look different from yours?
Mm-hmm.
Because the goal
Mm-hmm.
is overall health, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I did find the data, because I want to be clear on this.
Okay.
It's pulled from what is it pulled from the center again? Oh, here we go. Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. Okay. They say that according to verified purchase data for SNAP users, Walmart leads in SNAP shopper spend at 24%, followed by Kroger at 8%, Costco at 6%, Amazon at 5%, and Sam's Club at 4%. That is where the money is going.
That's where the money resides. Or maybe I
That's where
shouldn't
the
say
money
that.
resides.
Is that trademark? That's like, wait a minute.
Oh, wait, that's what we can scratch it.
That's where that money is going.
That's
That's where that money is
that's
going.
where the money is going. Okay, clear as day. Clear as day. And I have no problem sharing my links, so click on what you want, put the links in the comments.
Or we've given them the resources where to go. Let's not be like AI in other places and give them all the information.
Okay.
Let's encourage
I'm
them
just saying
to research themselves.
You can
We're
type out the things
them.
I'm saying verbatim into your search.
Same here. Same here. So when people say that we are making things up and this is not based on the numbers and you're just speaking out of turn and this is your opinion, it is not. It is not. But what I would like to know, those of you who are listening and made it to the end of this recording, I really want you to think about this topic. I want you to understand where we're coming from when we are speaking about SNAP, who benefits. Because as we said, it's through the lens, through your lens, who relies, who benefits. And as Latrice threw out there, the corporation. But I want you to reflect on this question here before we wrap up. How we talk about programs like SNAP shapes the economy we build. It truly does shape the economy we build. I would like for you to share that. How does it shape the economy we build? Because we've spoken on multiple angles, right? But what we can say is SNAP is needed. SNAP should be used to supplement your grocery budget. We need to stop putting a stain on those who receive the SNAP benefits and understand that it is not something to be taken advantage of, but for you to use in your household to ensure that you are having a healthy lifestyle. But more importantly, be mindful of where you're using your SNAP. Who do you want to benefit? Do you want your community, those who are within your community, to benefit from your SNAP purchases? Just like when everybody should take note of where you intentionally spend your money and all your actions. And I say that because I have associates with multiple ethnicities. Whether you are Italian, I have some Polish, and I know, especially my one Polish friend, she takes pride in shopping within her community. Because when she does bring me something, she'll say, "Oh, this is from the store that was down the street from me, and it's Polish owned." My thing is, whether in regards to your SNAP, since we're solely talking about that, look for places where it can benefit within your community as well, because that's going to be important. Outside of what Latrice just gave us with those statistics of those corporations who actually benefit from your SNAP benefits.
I think
Any last thoughts?
Yeah, that's core. What you said is core. And I mean, even if you don't receive SNAP, be intentional where you spend your money.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. That's law. That's something that we should always believe in. You shouldn't be spending money with people who don't want you in there. Why do you keep doing that? So I do feel like having that intention is important, because we are, as we can see, whether the government supplements your food or not, we're making these companies have no problem getting profits. Absolutely. But that small grocery store on the corner, they need you.
They really do.
They do.
Latrice, tell people how they can find you.
Hey, once again, my name is Latrice Farmer. My website is madqueenmedia.com. That's www.maadqueenmedia.com. And I am on social media at Mad Queen. It's MAAD Queen. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
And again, I'm your host, Bahia Shabazz. You can find me throughout every social media platform. For those of you who enjoyed listening to this episode, SNAP, who benefits? Hopefully we were able to break it down for you. Please like make a comment, share. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as YouTube. Once again, thank you for joining, and we'll catch you next time.
wanna learn about economy, financial responsibility, breaking down the numbers. We've got you